Hello. Before we begin, just take one breath with me. And I want to ask you something honestly. Have you ever noticed that even when life looks okay on the outside, something inside still feels the same? The same pressure, the same anxiety, the same heaviness, the same fear? That same feeling that something's missing. And maybe what's most confusing is nothing dramatic is even happening. Yet your body feels like it's living inside an old story. If that's you, this episode is for you. Today, we're talking about why your emotions can keep recreating your life and how to stop living from the past without needing to deny what you feel. Welcome to the Aligned Human Project podcast, where consciousness meets creation and hustle gives way to harmony. I'm Dawn Elgin, contrarian soul guide, spiritual CEO, and founder of Practical Spiritualism. This is a space where we explore what it truly means to be human, aligned, awakened, and in flow with the field of life itself. Together, we'll bridge science and spirit, energy and embodiment, purpose and prosperity, so you can remember who you are beneath the programming and reclaim the power to create in full alignment with your soul. Because the next evolution of humanity isn't out there, it's in here. This is the Aligned Human Project. Hello, and welcome to the Aligned Human Project, where consciousness meets creation and alignment becomes a way of life. I'm your host, Dawn Elgin, and today we're talking about one of the most overlooked truths in healing and transformation. Many people are trying to think their way into a new life, while emotionally rehearsing the old one. So let's begin there. Most people think emotions are temporary experiences, and they can be. They're meant to be. But emotions that are repeated long enough start to feel like personality. You may say, I'm just an anxious person, or I've always been intense. I'm naturally guarded. I'm someone who worries. I'm under a lot of pressure. And my favorite, I'm just more sensitive. But sometimes that isn't identity. Sometimes that is a practiced emotional state, a state your system learns so well, it started wearing your name. And this matters because if you mistake repeated feeling for who you are, you will defend it. You'll organize around it and you'll keep recreating it. People now often confuse stress with productivity. We wear busy like a badge of honor, as Brene Brown would say. And I know I certainly used to. And I have to be really cautious of not getting into that behavior again. You see, busy is not a badge of honor. And busy doesn't actually mean productivity. It just means that we're into high stress state. And this leads us to become into what we would call a misaligned or a maladapted state. When we get here, all of a sudden, vigilance we think is strength or guarding, protecting. Most of us wear armor all the time, and we think that is the right thing to do. We're cheered for it. You're being resilient. And we don't think about how we have created a dysfunction around that word. Vigilance in a hyper-vigilant state is not strength. It actually becomes a weakness. It's what we see when we expect the world around us to be dangerous. And then we think we're protecting ourselves and we call that strength. And the more often that we do this, we start calling emotional survival traits our personality, such as I'm an angry person, or I'm very anxious, or I have anxiety. These become our identity instead of becoming an experience, which is the way they were designed. You see, the thing we need to remember is familiar does not equal true. Now, this is where science helps us. Neuroscience shows that repeated experiences strengthen pathways in the brain. Psychology shows that emotional learning often happens early and deeply, before the age of 8. The nervous system becomes efficient at the states it visits most often. So if you regularly live in stress, fear, resentment, shame, urgency, anger, irritation, self-doubt, you get my drift, your system becomes faster at producing those states, not because they're true, but because they're practiced. So repeated states can become traits, and then traits look like identity. So now let's talk about the pain body. I think of it simply as accumulated emotional stress, old hurt that hasn't fully moved through, old grief, old fear, old rejection, old humiliation or embarrassment, old loneliness. And then something small happens today. Maybe it's the tone of someone's voice, an email, being left, a text, a criticism, silence. And suddenly the reaction is much bigger than this moment. Why? Because the present moment touched stored history, your pain body. You're not only feeling now, you're feeling the layers of yourself. Have you ever known that you're overreacting and you cannot stop it? It's like a compulsive energy that surges and just carries you forward, like a surfer riding a wave. Or have you ever felt younger than your age in that moment? Like you're reacting from your inner child, that part of you that you never healed? This can show up in places where we least expect it. I think of triggers as a light switch. When somebody bumps it, you get upset with them. Hey, turn that off. And you even maybe create boundaries around it. Suddenly you victimize yourself and they're the demon because they hit it. Well, the truth is, the switch wasn't the problem. The problem is you kept it connected to the wound. And so what we often do is we cover up this switch and we will put a little box over it or a sticky note that says, leave this on or don't touch this. We lock it down so nobody can. We create great contraptions around our triggers. And instead, what we need to do is become aware of the trigger, and the trigger's the path. This is what we mean by the obstacle is the way. When we become aware of a trigger, it's a way of us saying, oh, here's some accumulated pain body. And unless I want to keep misinterpreting the world around me, unless I want to keep having my perception skewed by the younger version of myself, then I need to remove the light switch. Now, the first stage, the first layer of this could look like taking the light switch off and putting a blank on. But the problem is we go deeper and deeper, which is why often we think, didn't I already deal with this? And somebody will go a little deeper. Maybe it's a person a little closer to you, had a little more trust. And what happens is much like if the wire is still in the wall and it's still live, then if you were to cut into the wall, you could still trigger that switch. We've just made it deeper, more difficult to get to. So we go to the next layer. So now, obviously, there's a light switch to my right if you're watching the video of this, because I keep looking this way. So you take the switch off, you put a blank on. And ideally, what we actually want to do is we want to pull the wires out, because otherwise, the light can keep getting triggered. And so our job in our healing work is layer by layer, we start disengaging those triggers. We take the switch off. We pull the wire out. We take the light fixture off. And then we take the box out. Then we drywall over. We mud and tape. We go through this whole thing and then we paint over. And after a while, no one knows there was ever a trigger there. You might not even remember the days that they were hit. This is what I want for you. I want you to have a life, a world where you're not triggered. And to do this, it takes time because up until this moment, we have accumulated light switches all over the place and we haven't even been aware of it. Now we need to start releasing and letting go. Remember, the trigger is present, but the charge is historical. And this is where everything can change. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are the one that is aware of them. I can't say this enough. You're the witness, the super conscious presence beneath the waves. And this matters because what you can witness, you don't have to become. You can feel sadness without becoming sadness. You can feel fear without letting fear lead. You can feel anger without becoming destructive. Feeling is human. Identification is optional. This is what we mean when we say pain is inevitable, you're going to feel it, but suffering is optional. There is a big difference between I feel fear or I'm experiencing fear and I am afraid. There's a difference between emotion and identity. There's even a big difference between experience and identity. So for myself, I used to live and say all the time that I was a survivor, which meant I was a fighting victim, which also meant that to remain in that identity, I had to keep all my wounds. Because if I didn't have my wounds, what did I survive? See, the problem is we think, oh no, I don't need to do this. I can be a survivor and I've let all that go. No, because otherwise you would just have an accumulation of wisdom. And it took me a long time. It was the hardest identity for me to disintegrate, to melt away, to move from victim to survivor to victorious, to be able to extract the wisdom from those experiences and let the rest of it go. This is when we can start allowing the emotions to come without obeying them. We can have a new experience without getting pulled into it. We're no longer drawn by the past. Now it's just an experience in this moment. And it's okay to dislike. You can be sitting there saying, I don't love this. And we still stay present. The key here is that emotions are signals. They're not commands. Now, there's 3 types of energy that make up our field. So when we're talking field and form, your field is made up of your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. Your thoughts are the weakest charge. So they're the electrical charge of your bioelectromagnetic field. So bio is body, your electrical is your thoughts, and then we have our emotions and our feelings. Now, a thought plus an emotion will create a feeling, but we can also cultivate the opposite way. We have an emotion and then we have a thought, and we join those two together to create an even bigger energy, which is our feelings. And so think about it this way. You have the thought, oh, what a jerk. But if you add an emotion of hurt or anger or frustration, that's going to have more punch to it. What a jerk. But if you have a feeling in your body where all of a sudden there's tension and you're hurt and you really push this out, well, in our woo-woo circles, we'd call it a curse. Now we have the energy to really drive home some serious energy. We can push it out. Think about it. You walk into a room where there's been a major disagreement and you can feel the tension. So we're creating and cultivating these energies, and the emotion is more powerful than just a thought. So thoughts matter, but emotions, feelings, far more powerful. Now let's bring it into something ancient. You see, many ancient traditions understood something we are remembering again now. Prayer was never about words. You don't need to find them. See, prayer was state. Prayer was an embodied feeling, not a begging from fear, not repeating phrases while living in stress and lack, but generating a living state of gratitude, compassion, appreciation, love, and joy. Why does this matter? Because your body responds to feeling more deeply than language. You can say, I trust me. You can say, I trust life while feeling panic, and the body learns panic. You can say, I am abundant while feeling scarcity, and the body rehearses lack. Words matter, but states shape. Research around heart coherence points to something powerful. When breath, heart rhythms, and emotional states come into harmony, people often experience greater clarity, calm, resilience, and well being, not because you forced positivity, but because coherence creates an internal order. An internal order changes how you perceive, choose, and respond. That changes the field. And when the field changes, the form follows. So let's do an embodied practice together. Begin by taking a slow breath. And bring your attention to the heart area. You bring your hand here, some fingertips, and begin to breathe just a little slower than usual. About 4 counts in through your nose, and 4 counts out through your nose or your mouth with a gentle sigh. Again, 4 counts in and 4 counts out. Now, as you continue this breath, bring to mind one thing you genuinely appreciate. Someone you love. Maybe a moment of beauty. Your breath that's always present with you. Maybe the fact that you're still here. Don't think about it. I want you to feel it. Let that appreciation become sensation. So we start to link mind and heart and just stay there for a few breaths. Imagine or visualize your appreciation. Breathing slowly, letting yourself feel it. Inhale. Exhale. And now ask, if I were not identified with old feelings, what would I choose next? And then just listen. Every answer to every question you have ever had is within you. You are the guru you've been waiting for. Many people are trying to create a new future while emotionally living in the past. The invitation is not to fake feelings, not to suppress pain, not to pretend everything is fine. The invitation is to feel honestly and consciously cultivate states that align with who you truly are. That is prayer and action. That is coherence and practice. That is conscious creation. And if this resonates, this is the work we do inside Align Your Life, inside the Aligned Human Project, and inside Alignment Operating System. Learning how to regulate the body, free the mind, and create from truth instead of old conditioning in your life, in your leadership, and in every system that you touch. If you're here to build a life that doesn't cost you your nervous system, to lead, love, and create from alignment instead of exhaustion, you're in the right place. This is practical spiritualism. This is the Aligned Human Project. And this is where we stop reacting to life and start creating it. Alignment isn't something you achieve. It's something you practice. So keep pausing, keep feeling, and keep choosing. You are the witness. You shape the field, and the field shapes your life. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to remember yourself. Because when you align with your truth, everything else begins to align with you. If this episode sparked something inside you, hit follow or subscribe and share it with someone walking their own path of awakening. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find free resources, programs, and community spaces waiting for you at practicalspiritualismco.com. Remember, alignment isn't a place you reach. It's a practice you live. So keep pausing, keep feeling, keep aligning. You are the field. You shape the form.